rebel comes screaming, we always holler back to him.
Have some more questions? All the way back on that. Now, education in Indiana. Are you excited for the convention coming to Fort Wayne this year?
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that may not have heard, the Republican Party convention is here in Fort Wayne, June 6th and 7th, and Mike Huckabee is going to be one of the speakers. And then along, good, that's great. All right, didn't get to see it. And but there's several events that are open to the general public and participate. So that's a big deal for us in Northeast Indiana to have the convention out of Indianapolis in Fort Wayne, first time that's ever happened. So.
Glad you're here, Marlin. Can you explain in your own words what you feel is going on in Nevada, and how do you feel about what has happened out there up to this point?
You know, whether it's through an agency or anything like that, I'll just tell you what I see. I see that that it's being handled very, very poorly. I don't know the situation with the ranch and the family there, and the, you know, how far back the land rights go. It seems that he obviously has a case that he's trying to make, but for the feds to walk in and to come in the way that they did, that could have turned out very, very ugly. And you know, if Bundy, well, I can't think of the gentleman's first name. Clyden? Clayton. Clyden, all right. Clyden, if he did something wrong, then go in and arrest him and put him in handcuffs and take him and you know, deal with him according to the law. I don't know why they're taking the livestock. I think that was very unnecessary. And you know, now it's just made matters worse. Deal with them according to the law rather than doing a cattle roundup. Because if there would have been somebody that all of a sudden got caught up in the emotion, and there would have been a happy or a trigger finger somewhere, this could have been a really, really bad situation. And the thing that I see is that the American people, we as Americans, we have so little trust for the federal government. And if something like that would have happened, it could have turned out very, very ugly. And so I'm glad they pulled back. You know, they have to resolve their differences, or whatever the situation is. Again, I don't know all of the details. If he did something wrong according to the law, then you know, deal with him according to that way. But if he hasn't, then you know, they should move on. But it does seem also that, you know, I don't know why Harry Reid keeps opening his mouth about the situation. To me, it doesn't look good from where we sit and what his involvement there. It's almost like he's trying to agitate the problem. I don't think that's very statesmanlike at all. And so, you know, I think he almost, well, I shouldn't say, I almost feel like he wants something to happen so he can, again, drop, you know, the term that he wants to on all of us as domestic terrorists. I mean, for the highest ranking U.S. senator to call any American domestic terrorist, I think is very unstatesmanlike and is not a person that deserves, he's going to lose respect from people when he acts like that. So I don't have a lot of details about it, but just from what I see, I think the feds handled it very poorly, and if the Bundy family is breaking the law, then they need to deal with them according to the law.
Name is Rick Runston, and basically, first off, I just want to thank you for your service. I don't like the term service being applied to politicians. I like that to be reserved for the military, but I know for those of you who swim upstream fighting the hard fight against your colleagues, it really does fit. So thank you again for your service. But the question I wanted to ask was actually echoed by somebody earlier, in the sense that we have Boehner that has repeatedly ignored the Astor rule. We have Canada just snuck in a House vote on a voice vote on the expansion of Obamacare. And we have all of the Republican leadership championing amnesty, whether it's Cantor, whether it's Boehner, whether it's Ryan. They're all ferociously saying we are going to pass amnesty. And in a private gathering about a month ago, Boehner said, I am hell-bent to get it done this year. I think 90% plus the conservative base of the party is disgusted by this and just can't fathom why this is happening. What kind of surety do we have that both now as well as after the election in 14, that there'll be enough conservatives in the House to be able to stop leadership from doing that?
Well, what we need is a movement. We need momentum, and that's something that I think that we should do. You know, it's the same thing in any election. It shouldn't just be a given. I don't think it should be a given that we should just automatically re-elect leadership. You should have a conversation about it, and I think that's where a lot of us are. I don't know. I can't put a number on it, but I know that there's more than enough to force a conversation on who should be in leadership, what should the Republican Party look like, who deserves the title of Speaker of the House, or who deserves the title of leader or whip or conference chair or any position for that matter. Because after this next election, whether or not we win the Senate, whether we win the Senate or not, the Republican Party has to be a conservative party.
Amen.
For us to win the election in 2016, we have to have a conservative candidate for president. If we don't have a conservative, the same thing's going to happen as it did in 2012. Conservatives are going to be disenfranchised and feel like the party has not left. That has left them, and that is critical for our party. And so, no matter what happens within the Senate, there's a lot of us that are going to force that conversation about who we are as a party going forward. If we don't win the Senate, then we even have more reason to talk about why there should be a change. If we win the Senate, there should be just as good enough reason, because we have some really good conservative candidates. You look at Tom Cotton in Arkansas. I mean, he is solid. He's a very good friend of mine. He's already up in the polls in Arkansas. He's a veteran, small government guy, and he's winning walking away. It's that message that resonates with so many Americans, and if we don't have a conservative message, we're not going to win.
Great. Let's we'll go right over here.
Hi, I'm PJ Quintero, and I understand President Obama has put on pause his plan to give away the internet.
That'd be great news if he did.
I heard that last week on the news.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay,
Has anybody
so-
else heard that he has put on pause?
Well, it's just a pause.
I'm sorry?
It's just a pause.
Oh, I know, but that's
So-
with him, that's a good stuff.
Well, okay, so
And
then,
it's a terrible idea to give our authority away.
yeah, so we've been warned, we have some time. What's Congress going to do to stop him from doing this, or any other president?
Yeah, the Energy and Commerce Committee has a bill that would stop that from happening. We have about a year, but to let the control of the internet go to some global, governing body, the UN or anybody else for that matter, is a terrible idea. Again, we have. Imagine if it got into the hands of, the UN for one, whether it's Russians or the Chinese or anybody else. I mean, we are still a unique country in this world because we don't have a dictator as the leader. I knew that was coming. But we are still a democratic republic, and so we also can pull back. I mean, I know there's a lot of things that could be said about the current administration, but we as a country, the people, we're not aggressors. We're not looking to expand, the United States. People still want to come to this country because of the opportunity and the freedom that's here. But we have to have, we see the world differently than what Putin does, or what, other dictators around the world. So we're going to try to stop him. I don't know what the Senate will do. Again, the Senate is the wild card in all of this. And they have not, we've passed it. They blame us for stopping Senate bills. There's only 6 in the Senate, the 6 that have passed the Senate that are in the House that we have not taken up. There's 140 some that are over in the Senate that we've passed that they've never even talked about. So Harry Reid has put a block on a lot of this. I don't know what they would do. I don't know where the Senate would be at. I would hope again that they would be on America's side, but we'll find out because we're going to try to put a stop to that and allowing them to give this control of the internet to some other agency outside of the United States.
You mentioned Putin there. How worried are you the way that the United States is being watched from an outsider right now?
I'm very concerned. I mean, Putin knows that he has a weak U.S. president right now. Now's his opportunity to push into enlarge his influence, expand territory from Russia. I mean, he's KGB. I mean, that's who he is, and he sees that he has a window now between now and the next election. Who he doesn't know who's going to be the next president, and is the next president going to push back harder than what this president does? He knows the president's weak, and so he feels like he can cross any line. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, if we remember back to that video that came out of Russia when before the election, when the president said, "Just wait until after the election, and I'll have more flexibility." Yeah, I don't think that's not working out in our favor. It's the president. Putin. He knows. I mean, he's had several things go really well for him. I mean, Eric Snowden. He was giving him a lot of information. He's had, the Olympics were a success. He's expanded into Georgia. He's now expanded into Ukraine. He's had very little pushback, and so I think I'm very concerned about what's going on in the Ukraine, and also the cuts that our military has taken in spending recently puts us in a situation where we're gonna have to be prepared because you never know what could happen. I mean, I pray that it doesn't, but at the same time, we have to be prepared like it's going to. Dave.
Hi, Marlin. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. About 4 months ago, Elijah Cummings quoted the quote I like. "I don't believe that Americans want to destroy the IRS." Now, at around the same time, another one of your congressmen friends, I hope he's your friend, Louis Gohmert, said that we need a tax system so simple that we don't need an IRS. Now, for anybody who doesn't know who I am,
Cameras over there, Dave.
so first of all, thank you for being a sponsor, a co-sponsor of Fair Tax. Are you aware there's another bill in Congress, H.R. 104, which is a one-page bill to repeal the IRS? It's written by a first-term congressman from Oklahoma.
Bridenstine?
You betcha.
Yeah, he's a good friend.
And he's a strong fair tax supporter. So, have you considered co-sponsoring that?
I've not heard about it, but I'd be glad to look at
You
it.
have now.
Yeah, I have.
Thanks.
You bet. Well, let me just say this. According to, the issue that Dave brought up, Dave Camp, who is the Ways and Means Chairman, put out a tax reform proposal about 6 weeks or so ago, and it's supposed to be for conversation purposes. And I think what it has done, it has shown a lot of people how convoluted and complicated the current tax code is. And the more people come in and talk about, well, they wouldn't like this change, they wouldn't like that change, I just get to the point and say, you know what? We've got a solution for it. I mean, we don't need this complicated tax code the way that it is now. Let's go to the fair tax. And that would take care of a lot of it. And I don't get a lot of pushback from a lot of folks. I mean, and maybe we're at that point where people are saying we need to scrap the system and start over. It won't happen under this administration or this Senate, but maybe we show people how complicated it is and how convoluted it is that people want a simpler system. You ask any group, people say it's a too complicated system, we need a simpler system. And the fair tax fits right into that equation.
Hey Ryan, real quick, can I make a comment before you go on? Because this passed everybody, nobody uttered a word about this. I'm going to have to disagree with you with one thing. We are not a democratic republic, we are a constitutional republic. We lose these things because of language. And until we go back to being a constitutional republic, we're never going to. We are not a democratic republic. I just thought I'd put that in there.
How about that? We still have a lot of time, so if you have your questions, we do want to ask them. Let's go right here first, and we'll make it right back over here. Just start with your name.
Doug Bolton. I listen to Mark Levin a lot, and over he wonders why John Boehner he has the authority to assign a special prosecutor on the Benghazi and IRS scandals, and John Boehner refuses to do it. Why is that?
Well, there's some internal battles over that because Daryl Issa, who is the oversight chairman, he wants to deal with it. And then you have Dave Camp, who's the Ways and Means chairman. He wants to deal with the IRS. I would support a special.
That's the only way you have subpoena power.
Yeah.
Lois Lerner take away with everything.
But we'll also have to have the Senate agree with that. So again, Harry Reid is not going to let. He doesn't want Benghazi to be exploited any more than what he thinks we already have done. He doesn't want IRS. They don't want any of these scandals to be talked about more and more. But Lois Lerner, she's in a lot of trouble, and I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's a lot of other folks that are way out of bounds on their bureaucratic authority.
You have all kinds of questions. Let's get some of it's anyone that hasn't asked a question yet. You have to?
There's an awful lot of talk about there's no leadership in Washington. Well, I take a lot of umbrage with that. I think there's great leadership in Washington. You got to remember who's leading who and for what purpose. Obama is leading the United States, as we understand it, down Primrose Path. There is a plan. They got a plan. But I have a plan too. I have a plan that we can get 57% of the Christians who are not voting, get them to the voting booth. I have a plan, and I need somebody to go with me and listen to it and prove it, critique it, and then go with it.
You got information. I'd like to
Send it
see
to
it.
you.
All right.
You have a copy of it. I don't know if you've ever read it, but you got a copy.
Let's make sure I get it. Okay.
All right. Well, let's continue. If you want to start with your name here.
My name is Earl Bronwyn. I'm very insecure. I'd like for you to make me feel more secure. Over half of the government almost spends money on Medicare and health care, Social Security disability, and yet nobody seems interested in it. I don't understand why. And I've sent some information to you, like that notebook, and I have some more I want to give you. I noticed here that they say the Social Security disability program will be installed as early as 2016. It's a congressional, started in Congress, but the actual person who runs it in theory is the governor. However, the governor's office claims they don't have anything to do with it. It's a federal issue. Millions lost to disability fraud and so on. You got 1 out of 6 people on food stamps. You got almost the same thing with the Social Security disability. And there's people who need to be on it, but you have a system where it's run by lawyers and bureaucrats. I notice it's only one of 69 welfare type programs. And my question is very simple. Will you try to make me feel not so insecure? Because I feel real insecure. I can't get your attention. May I give this to you? By the way, thanks for coming in.
You bet. Thank you. I feel insecure about all these things as well.
There's a lot of people when they see something like that, they see a lot of abuse in the system or some redundancies in the system, and maybe the funding that's going to the system isn't getting to the people that actually need it. But when you actually bring some red flags about it, they say you're waging a war on the poor. So how does that work? Where you're trying to get something done, but all the rhetoric comes at you. They start throwing those special terms.
I mean, look at the fight that I had with the Farm Bill. I mean, 80% of the Farm Bill is food stamp program. And as soon as we separating the farm policy away from the food stamp program, you should have seen the line on the Democrat side of the aisle, 15 deep, because they started calling us every name in the book, that we wanted to take food away from children, that we didn't want to help the poor. They throw all the emotional arguments at us. And you go talk to the folks down at the Community Harvest Food Bank, and they will tell you that people are taking a $50 food stamp card and bartering it and getting $25 in cash for it. So this is what's happening, and nobody wants to admit it. And so We were successful in the House of Representatives separating the two bills just to bring transparency and accountability to both programs. And once it got to a conference committee between the House and the Senate, we had the House Ag leadership on board, but Debbie Stabenow from Michigan, the senator from Michigan, she had the final say at the end, and we lost. But I will take it as a victory just in the fact that we got it done in the House of Representatives for the first time in over 50 years. And hopefully the next time the Farm Bill comes back up for reauthorization. Food stamps has gone from $260 billion in spending in 2002 to over $800 billion in spending today. And as he said, 1 in 6 Americans are on food stamps. We also have to have a conversation in this country, kind of going back to what this gentleman said. This country, we have to talk about personal responsibility and people taking personal responsibility, first of all, for their families. And I'll tell you, in this country, food is not a problem. It is the distribution of food that is the problem, and it is the government pressure on Americans that is the problem. This food stamps is a symptom of a greater problem. And what the disease is too big of a government that continues to slow the economy down. The government's trying to continue to take over more and more of our daily lives. So you go from, let's go from, and again, this is not about, people do generally need help because people have been put into difficult decisions and difficult choices because of government policies. But let's take the boot off of all Americans and let people have opportunity, and there's economic growth, people are going to be doing better, and then there's going to be less need for more government programs. And that's how we're going to get out of this mess. We were able to get rid of direct payments in ag this last year because, for one, there's a whole lot of reasons why it wasn't necessary, but we got rid of them. And so change can happen, but we need a stronger economy for us to really make those changes. Because when you take something away from people when they have very little to begin with, you're going to cause an uproar. If the economy is strong, that's when it's time to trim programs back to what they really need to be, let's not let people become so dependent on the government.
Another question right here.
My name is Bill Larson. Social Security has faced financial difficulties in its inception since 1937. The payroll tax has risen from 2% to 10.6% for OSI and 1.8% for disability. Payroll taxes are the single largest tax paid by workers. I have 5 children, all born after 1986. The big fix in 1983 was the 5th big fix since 1937 to pay full benefits until 2064, when the same problem faced in 1983 would come again, so to speak. Current projections show that the trust fund will be exhausted now in 2033, 19 years from now. A person takes approximately 46 years to save for retirement. As a nation, we have 19 years. When you weight adjust that, we have 6 years. It'd be like somebody waiting until age 61 to save for retirement with 0 to begin with, try and retire at age 67. The projected benefit payable at that time is 75% and decreases to 60% over the next 35 years. SS is the negative cash flow unless changes are made. Do you believe Social Security to be fair to young people? And what do you propose for Social Security? And do older workers deserve a better deal than young workers like my children today?
Well, Bill, I know you've obviously done your homework, and I know you've talked about this issue for a long time. And I know that that's been an issue that's close to your heart. It should be an issue close to all of us. As this gentleman mentioned, over half of the federal government's budget is taken up with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. If the third largest line item that the federal government has is debt service on the debt that we have. If interest rates go up at all, it's going to blow up the federal government's budget. Social Security is not sustainable the way that it is, and it's going to have to change. It's either going to be changed by us voluntarily, or it's going to change by us mathematically. With the baby boomer generation retiring, my generation and younger generations are not going to have, they're just not capable of having the same benefits that the federal, or that the current levels of benefits are. I believe several things. I think one, that we can keep promises to those who are over the age of 55 through Social Security, with Social Security benefits. But those who are 55 and younger are going to have to see a different sort of a program. I am willing to participate and to help to make sure that my parents, even though my grandparents have passed on, make sure that those promises are kept to them. But I'm also willing to let me have time to adjust, and let me have time to plan. Let me keep more of my own money, and I'll take care of my retirement myself. Now, Social Security was designed to be a safety net for those who didn't have any sort of means once retired. People are living a lot longer, and so I think we're going to have to raise that age at some point to higher, because people are living longer and they're taking more from Social Security. My wife's grandmother is 96 years old, and life expectancy was not 96 years old when Social Security passed. It was 63. I think it was 63 or 64 when Social Security was first passed. I think we should also have some sort of means testing for Social Security. If you're Bill Gates, I don't think you need Social Security. I think that there should also be a way to forego Social Security benefits for some sort of tax credit or some sort of I don't think it should be taken from people, but if people want to forego Social Security benefits, I think there should be that option as well. And I think you'd find a lot of Americans willing to do that to help save the program. At the end of the day, it comes back to personal responsibility as well. We should all save, for ourselves, for the future. And I met with a group of insurance folks today, and that's one of their primary concerns, is that if the tax code is changed to disincentivize savings, more Americans won't save. We need some sort of tax policy that encourages savings. And I think that's one thing I have talked to hundreds and thousands of folks here around Northeast Indiana, and there's a lot of folks that understand that concept of saving for retirement and for future generations. But there's a lot of folks, the numbers are staggering when you hear what the average age of Americans are that actually have savings that's going to be sustaining them through the rest of their life. And it's not enough. But we're going to go broke as a country if we try to sustain programs that we currently have at the levels that they are, and then what good is it going to be for any of us?
Hunkered in the sand, middle of nowhere. The war was raging and he didn't think he'd be spared. He told his buddy, guess this is the end. His buddy looked at him, said, don't say that again, 'cause we're stronger